I'm here with Dove, and I have to first apologize with you because initially we planned this interview to be directly after your debut, which you very narrowly won, and not least
Yeah.
due to your efforts. It's just very, very late in Europe, as your fans will probably also know. So we had to delay it for a week. We're currently a little bit before NA matches start. And we wanted to still pick your brain in how you thought your first entry into the Overwatch League went, and yeah, what your emotions are about it now.
I mean, our first match was against the Glad, so it was a little bit tough. Um, I did pretty okay on one map, but besides that, like that match, I didn't feel I played too well. Um, but then in the NYXL match, uh, I played a little bit better than I thought I would have. But even then, like I'm still not really happy with my performance since it was such a close match.
It seems like you're thinking that you would probably have a slower start, trying to like just get your bearings on the situation, being brought in so late. What do you think? What were your biggest hesitations about like being able to perform 100% at at the start?
And it's just like adapting to the way that teams play. Since like I've mostly gotten my practice through ladder, it's a little bit different.
Is what do you think is the most different thing that's happening?
It's just a lot of teamwork. Like I take a lot of 1v1s in ranked, and if I do that in pro play, it's pretty hard since they have like orb, where they have a lot of people looking at me.
For sure. Now, how much time did you have with the team before you got into your first match?
First match was like the 18th, right? I think so.
I believe, yeah.
Something. Yeah, so I played 2 blocks before the signing, 2 or 3 blocks, and then I had 2 blocks a day, 2 or 3 blocks a day from the 13th to the match. So not very much.
What was your general approach in being led into? Did you just slot into the hole that Glissa left, or was it just like, okay, we're going to try to play like something that's easy to execute here? We're in a new meta. We're not trying to reinvent the wheel, and we're putting you on X, Y, and Z. Maybe some comfort picks here and there, and see how it goes.
Well, they just told me that I was gonna be playing a lot of tracers, so I had to rewarm myself up for that year.
For sure. Were you generally tasked so far to sort of like also practice individually?
Um, like my practice routine.
Yes, and which hero selection you've sort of come down to being assigned to?
Right now, it's just tracer and sojourn. I don't play much else really.
Is there a good way to currently practice specific heroes other than in scrims?
No, not really, because in ranked, like both of those heroes are different. If I play on live, since the fall off distance on tracer is a little bit different, and she does less damage, so you have to play it a little bit differently, and also like obviously sojourn's not in the game. So the only thing right now is like some aim training in Overwatch 2.
Right. Are there any drills that you generally do? Are you like a big aim lab person or something like this?
Yeah, I do a lot of Kovacs, and I would have done a lot more in the past few years, but I had a slight wrist injury, so kind of threw me off.
Right.
But yeah, Kovacs a lot.
Right. How long had you been actively trying to get into the Overwatch League?
I think I was like 16, so I started in like 10th, 11th grade, and that was when I was in open division, and I would just watch Vods in some of my classes.
Right. Did you have trials in the preseason this year?
I've had trials like since the end of 2020. So I'd like 5. I made it into stage 2 of like 3, maybe 4. And then last season I had trials, but they didn't really go anywhere. I think most teams like had who they wanted signed to sign.
Right. Now, one thing that we couldn't oversee in terms of your history is that you're once again reunited with Gridro. Of course, you guys played together in the past. Does that feel comfortable in some way?
I mean, yeah, he's somebody that I like know a little bit more than anybody else on the team. Like I haven't really played with anybody else, so it's kind of nice having like an ex-teammate.
You got to the facility this week, right?
Yeah.
Have you had the chance to mix socially with them yet?
I mean, Juju's my roommate, and then like we play a lot, and then we talk a lot before and after scrims. So yeah, we've done a few outside activities too.
What's it like to be so to set it up a little bit, of course, JMAC first when you got introduced into coaching or was of course a player, then wrote basically the book on goats, I remember, and the book on general Overwatch strategy. Then we heard like he had extensive logs of just like Discord channels filled with individual feedback. And that was kind of interesting. And it was just a lot of work that was obviously put into it. And it felt like it was an unorthodox approach that, especially last season, seemed to work. What was it like being introduced into that type of coaching? And what is it like now?
Well, he writes a lot, but it's like really easy to understand, so I like it. Um, like there's a lot of pictures and he explains it pretty well. So there's a lot of info, but it's pretty condensed, so it's pretty easy to learn.
Is the language barrier an issue at all?
Well, Avala translates for us, so only like if she's busy. But for the most part, not really.
Do you feel you've already learned a lot?
Yeah. There's still a lot to learn though, so
Is there any particular thing that doesn't give any strategies away that you particularly feel you've improved a lot since you joined?
uh, I'm trying to learn like how to use my resources and my teammates a lot more and a lot better, more efficiently. So that's it.
Right. Now, I guess a little bit more generally, it feels like NA visas, or rather NA residents, are really sought after, of course. Like it's hard to get a visa in this current environment. We also had a lot of talent come from NA containers this year or last year specifically, also from collegiate, of course, where it seems like now feasibly NA is that most definitely the biggest, second biggest talent source. And for the remainder of the season, it also seems pretty infeasible to bring in Korean players because of the visa requirements. So it stands to reason that a lot of teams will have to try to get additional NA players. So what kind of players do you think teams should be looking at? Are there any particular players that you played against, that you played with, that you would either recommend or expect teams to look at?
For this season, I think the only two that come to mind are Lukmino and Rakitek. Um, for next season or this off season, I think like maybe King and Rocket are of age. So those two for DPS.
Lugmino is like a guy when I talk to people, it's like he always makes it like into the later rounds, but then just narrowly doesn't make it. Do you think
Yeah.
like it's just a matter of time when he gets in?
Yeah, I mean, people need to give them the opportunity, and then like, I think that's the case for most NA players. Like they're very skilled mechanically. It's just they don't know how to play into systems.
Right. Do you think there's
I
a
guess for me too.
is there a thing about communication as well?
Um, well, I think those two like they're very skilled mechanically, and then like they just don't know like what to say. So they have like the basics, but like again, it could always be improved.
How would you describe your own style in terms of the calling that you do? Are you generally just receptive? Do you just call things as you see them? Do you try to make short calls? Like, what's your general style?
Um, I do a lot of info calls. Like I try to do my scouting and I try to call cooldowns, like important ones like lamp, recall, fades, stuff like that. And sometimes I call if we can like push aside and create angles on them. but that's it.
Sure. Now, is there any other hit scan player, maybe on ladder, that you met that is already in the Overwatch League that you felt like, okay, I want to play this guy in an actual match?
I mean, like, there's a few Tracer players that like I wanna play against, like Venom. He was my old teammate too. Um, but yeah, Atlanta, because I think Kai's really good and Venom's my old teammate.
Are there any players where you ever go like try to find their first person footage or like look at their general play that you try to learn from?
Yeah, it's kind of a running joke in tier 2 that like I would pay for Kev's or Vods. I've never paid for one, but I would like scout his Vods. Yeah.
Right, makes sense. Now, what is your general approach into the next matches, both for you and for the team? What are the expectations and what do you think? Because, I mean, mid-season qualification is a rough one, certainly given how the rule set works with both stages counting. So, what's the goal that you guys set for yourselves?
I mean, obviously we want to get like as many maps as possible just to be able to like catch up to most teams. Um, but I want to be working with my teammates a lot more and like using their resources and like just our team play in general is what we want to improve on.
For sure. Then we hope that works out for you guys, and thank you for the interview.
Thank you. Thank you.